I, M48, and my wife Anne, F47, live by ourselves. Our kids have both moved out. I'm the breadwinner and Anne the stay-at-home mom. Now she's the housewife after our youngest moved out last year. What's changed is that she says she's owed for raising our kids and taking care of the household. She wants more personal time, less work around the house, and so I've basically taken over almost all the housework, cooking 3 meals, cleaning the house. I'm still working a full-time job, and I never slacked on chores that I did, such as the gardening, hard lifting, etc., and I was never an absent father. I bore with it for the past year, but she's gotten more abusive, outright berating me in front of the kids when they visit that I'm only good for my strength and don't think about the household at all, while she is doing less of the household work. It's gotten to the point that I just want to relax in the car for a good solid minute because I only know there's a long list of things to do. Last night, she went out with her friends, while I slept early for work. This morning, I looked for the car keys for over 30 minutes, which were not in the drawer we always put them in. I woke her up to ask where she put, and she just grumbled at me to find them myself before going back to sleep. I ended up finding it in her handbag and got to work late. I got home today to her screaming at me for invading her privacy by going through her handbag. I tried to tell her that she told me to find them myself, but she kept cutting me off saying I should have known better than to dig through her personal belongings. That she has rights, and I should respect them and to wait for her to wake before getting her to find the keys herself. It was when she said she didn't care if I was late to work that I lost it. Her exact line was, "It's not like we're needing that stupid money anymore." I yelled back at her that she was entitled and selfish, and that the only reason she's able to enjoy her current time is because of my stupid money. That she's been having it far too easy the past year, and if she wanted to see what she's owed, she can go back to either working, or doing all the chores she's dumped on me. Anne was shell-shocked that I yelled back at her. The rest of the night was quiet, and she locked herself in our bedroom and hasn't come out. I've called our kids, and told them what happened. My daughter agrees with me, but son says that I may have been too harsh to call her entitled, and implied that I undermined her efforts all those years as a stay-at-home mom. They're going to take turns calling Anne, but I now wonder if I may have been overboard with yelling at her about taking it too easy. Daughter has suggested couple therapy, and said that she's going to suggest it to Anne as well. I'm more than willing to do so, as today's encounter made me reflect that I'm getting extremely tired and weary of this life. Comment 1. NTA: why is your wife owed for taking care of the house etc. if you also worked and did chores? It sounds like she feels the labor of division was uneven. Regardless, if the distribution of work needed to be changed, that should have been a conversation, not a dumping of tasks on you. It is never acceptable to berate your partner or be abusive. You shouldn't have lost your temper, but it was in response to the situation, which has become increasingly difficult. Your wife is not being reasonable. It sounds like you both need to discuss this. Perhaps with a professional, impartial mediator. Comment 2. That's the downside of these old-school relationship styles a lot of older people have. They can certainly work, if that's what's actually wanted by both parties. A lot of older generations just jumped into these super traditional marriages without getting the time to really discover themselves. They end up feeling trapped because they're either an overworked husband who feels cut out from the family, or an overworked mother who missed out on opportunities. So once that dynamic ends, they're suddenly free to let out all of the resentment they built up. That said, she is an adult, is probably on the internet like the rest of us, and had plenty of resources to learn how to communicate her wants in life. So OP is certainly NTA. Comment 3. What you both need to realize is being a homemaker is a full-time job. If she wants time to herself, she can do so after she's done her part. If you're making the money, all she's doing is spending it. The least she can do is cook and clean. However, if she doesn't want to cook and clean, she's still young enough to get a part-time job or a full-time job so she has her own money to do so, but she still has to take care of the house. When I, 24F, was 5, my mother had her second child, my sister. We have different dads and neither was involved when we were kids. My sister was born prematurely, and this is when my mother went from being my mom to being an almost stranger to me. She spent all her time at the hospital with my sister, and I was passed around from friends to family and even to strangers my mother and I didn't know, because an aunt would hand me over to someone in her husband's family or a family friend would pass me on to their friend. My sister was in the hospital for months and had many complications from being born so early. So was one of the youngest preemies in the hospital's history. When she started to get strong enough to go home, complications due to her stomach were found and that required more time and more treatments. My mother was in and out of the hospital with her for the next couple of years as they performed surgeries and gave treatments when she would get sick. At that point, even when my mother was home with my sister, she would keep me somewhere else normally, and the times I was home with her, I was left alone and her focus was my sister. Then when my sister was 2, she was diagnosed with leukemia, and that resulted in more treatments, more hospital visits, and just never ever seeing them. By the time I was 10, my mother was okay leaving me at home while they were at the hospital, so I was alone. It was around this time that my teachers started to suggest I might have dyslexia, and the school reacted out to my mother, but she was too focused on my sister to do anything for me. Nothing changed after my sister became cancer-free and she was less sick and needed the hospital less. My mother was so devoted to her that she didn't pay attention to me, and both were strangers to me. I started staying with my girlfriend's family as a teenager and my mother didn't care. I would only go back to her house when I needed to pick up more of my clothes or stuff. And when I turned 18, I moved out officially and got my dyslexia diagnosis. Now several years on, I don't really have anything to do with my mother or my sister. I don't blame my sister for any of this. It's just no bond could form when we were younger and she's a stranger to me. My mother has started to have some health problems and turned to me for help. She told me I should be around more and doing stuff to help her because she's my mom. She also said my sister deserves a relationship with me and accused me of punishing my sister for existing. I told her that wasn't true, but we were strangers and that was because of her, my mother. I also told her she hadn't been my mom since I was 5 and she had no right to ask me to care for her when she hasn't cared for me in almost 20 years. She called me a selfish and spoiled child who never grew up. Comment 1. NTA. What you said was true. Your mom has never been around for you, unfortunately. Your mom neglected you and this is the result. If your sister wants a relationship with you, which might still be possible, it will be up to her to do the legwork, and you'd have to make it clear you don't want anything to do with your mom, or your mom getting involved in your relationship. Comment 2. NTA. You had a mother, and then, you didn't. While it's not her fault she had to be in the hospital a lot, it is her cross to bear that she didn't include you, let you have a voice, and so on. Your sister is herself a victim here, but that's not the important part. Ask your mother where she was during the days when you were supposed to have her around as a warm and guiding mother. When she inevitably fumbles with finding words, just tell her that's what I thought. Comment 3. She called you selfish and spoilt? Does she even know the last gift she has given you to consider you spoilt? Your NTA. It's unfortunate the life your sister has had at such a young age, however your mother had a duty of care to you too. Because of your sister's health problems there would always be times she would have to be away, but for a mother to completely ignore her other child. She would have been a better mother sending you to live with a stable family member or something like that so you had people to care for you. My only thought is after caring for your sister she was completely spent out of energy to deal with anything else, but still that's not right. My husband and I recently got married and I felt that my sister-in-law tried to make our special day about her kids. I proposed to my sister-in-law's kids if they could be our flower girls for the special day. The kids were so excited and said yes. Everything seemed to go according to plan until 2 months before the wedding, when my sister-in-law asked me if the kids should have 2 dresses for 2 entrances, wedding ceremony and dinner reception. I told my sister-in-law that the kids will only have 1 entrance, as our flower girls, during my wedding ceremony. My sister-in-law looked upset and said they must walk during the dinner reception too. Note that my wedding ceremony and dinner reception was at the same location and the wedding aisle was long, 85 feet long, so it takes some time to get from one end to the other, especially for kids. I am not the confrontational type, so I asked my husband to tell his sister that her daughters will only walk down the aisle once. My husband agreed and told his sister. My sister-in-law disapproved and said to my husband that he is the kids' only beloved uncle and that her daughters will never get a chance to be flower girls again. I thought everything was sorted out. Until the big day. The wedding ceremony went as should and the flower girls were so beautiful. However, when the dinner reception time came and my husband and my entrance to the dinner reception was about to happen, the sister-in-law inserted her kids in front of us with fresh baskets of rose petals. The sister-in-law never told me nor my husband about this entrance. I was blindsided. Turns out that my sister-in-law went behind my back and told my MOH to tell the wedding MC, to announce the flower girls first to the dinner reception. The flower girls entered the dinner reception laying out a fresh set of rose petals down the aisle once more. While I was surprised, I was not angry, nor sad, because it was a special day and I did not want to let bad emotions ruin the day. I was also going to let the MC introduce and thank the flower girls during the reception anyways, so I did not mind. This quickly changed when my sister-in-law planned a surprise dance by the daughters in the middle of dinner as a gift to us. The MC once again announced the flower girls and they started dancing down the aisle onto the main stage again. So, all in all the kids walked down the aisle not once, not twice, but 3 times. My husband and I were supposed to have our first dance during this time, but instead her daughters danced on the stage, while my husband and I had our first dance on the side. After the wedding I told my husband how upset I was at his sister and said she was trying to make the day about her kids. I confronted my sister-in-law about this, but she shrugged it off and said that they were just kids and I am being a bridezilla. Instead my husband apologized on her behalf, which angered me more since it was not his fault. Comment 1, NTA. I think you approached this the right way by having consistent and open communication with your now husband and having him communicate with his sister. I'm glad he supported you throughout this situation. Your sister-in-law was so fixated on her own kids being a fixture of this wedding and ignored your wishes, even when you communicated them clearly and kindly. This is your wedding. You get to organize it however you please. It feels like she almost retaliated against you for not allowing her vision for your wedding where her kids were involved to be executed, and therefore she went behind your back and introduced 3 separate events where her kids would be featured. What gets me is how it ended up eclipsing your first dance with your husband. That's ridiculous. That's why you plan this stuff beforehand so it goes as you and your partner want it to go. She overstepped. She's the R here. Comment 2. NTA. I'm on board for not posting any pics of the girls or anything like that to show sister-in-law what for. However, the girls will still have great memories of the day/night and none of this is their fault. Might be cute to get any photos of the extra stuff put aside to present to them, not sister-in-law, when they're a little older. I do digital portraits, mostly as a hobby, but I have gotten a few commissions here and there. A while ago, my boyfriend and I were hanging out with mutual friends and my boyfriend suggested in front of everyone that I do a portrait as a gift for someone's upcoming birthday. While it was a little annoying to be volunteered by him, I did think it was a good gift idea and went ahead and did it. The next time a birthday in the group came up, my BF made the same suggestion and as a result the birthday portrait has kind of become my thing. My boyfriend will get something small as his gift since he views the portrait as being from us. The part where I may be the a-hole here is that I haven't told him explicitly to stop volunteering me for these portraits. It is my fault for going along with the birthday gift thing for our friends without saying anything, but I kind of assumed that he would at least keep these requests within the realm of common sense. Well, his college buddy is getting married, and my boyfriend told him that I would make him a portrait of him and his bride as a wedding gift. I have never even met this person. To make matters worse, he apparently made this promise weeks ago but only told me about it today, and the wedding is this Saturday. I finally lost it at him and told him that I'm not his personal portrait sweatshop, and that he only does this because he's a cheapskate and it gets him out of spending any money on a gift, even though it costs me a lot of time. He argued back that a bespoke portrait is so much better than just buying something off the resume, that it's a generous thing for me to do, it helps build my portfolio, and that I don't get very many paid commissions anyway. For the record, I don't get many paid commissions because I don't charge peanuts for them. I have a full-time job, so I price according to what would be worth giving up the amount of free time that it takes me. He told me that I put him in a really difficult position, that he hyped up the portrait, and they were both really looking forward to it. He said, "Please just do this one and I won't ask again." I said, "No, I don't even know these people, this is so not my problem." He looked up a couple of portrait artists online, but none of them were willing to do the piece on the short turnaround he needed, plus at the quality he wanted, plus at the price he was willing to pay. He even tried using an AI image generator, which was a complete slap in the face to me as an artist, but all of the outputs were very obviously AI. He's begging me to please just do this one and he will make it up to me on my birthday, but, especially after he apparently thought my work was so worthless that it could be effortlessly reproduced by a machine, I'm just really not in the mood. Comment 1. NTA, it would be one thing if he gave you a month's notice. I suspect that he had a hunch you wouldn't want to do a portrait for someone you don't know and haven't even met. That's likely why he sprang it on you last minute, so that you felt like you could not say no. He can go buy another present and apologize to his friend. The fact that he's trying to twist your arm to get you to do this rather than taking responsibility for his poor planning and rude assumptions is absolutely his problem. I would not back down, and if he won't let this go, I would seriously take a look at the relationship and evaluate how often he has devalued you and taken advantage of you at the same time. Comment 2. You're right. You should have talked to him after he did it the first time. I get it, though. At this point, you need to stand your ground. You already said no, and his instinct is to argue instead of respecting your boundaries. Even now, he still refuses to accept no as an answer. He swears it'll be the last time, but his behavior tells me that's bullshit. It's not that difficult to tell his friend, "Hey, I misjudged, and she won't be able to do the portrait. She's got a lot on her plate right now," but he seems to have too much of an ego to own it. Either way, he's going to have to deal with the humiliation that he brought on himself.